Welcome to today's deep dive. I'm your host, and we are going to be jumping into some really fascinating source material today regarding canine behavior.
Yeah, I'm the resident expert here, and I'm so excited to get into this. It's really going to reframe a lot of things for
Oh,
people.
for sure. And, to start us off, I want you, the listener, to just picture a scene. Picture a quiet, securely fenced field,
Sounds nice.
right? The grass is swaying a bit in the breeze, the sun is shining, and you give your Afghan hound a very familiar cue. You just say, come.
Just a standard everyday command.
Exactly. It's a word they have heard like 100 times before.
Yeah.
And you can tell they hear it. The ear flicks, they glance towards you for maybe a half second.
Yep.
But in that exact fraction of a moment, something moves out past the fence line. Maybe it's a bird lifting off the grass. Instantly, that glance toward you is just gone.
Oh, completely gone.
The dog's entire posture shifts. Their eyes lock onto the movement, and your cue just, well, it completely evaporates into thin air.
It is a moment every single owner of a visually driven dog knows all too well. And it's usually followed by an intense, massive spike of frustration for the person holding the leash.
Oh, I mean, your immediate thought as the person standing there is that your dog is just ignoring you, right? Like they're being stubborn, they are flat out disrespecting your authority.
Yeah, that's the natural human assumption.
Well, okay, let's unpack this. Because diving into this specialized research on sighthound behavior and training psychology, it reveals a completely different reality.
It really does. It flips the whole narrative.
And that's our mission for this deep dive. This isn't about figuring out how to, punish disobedience or force a dog to listen. We are going to decode the Afghan hound's incredibly unique mind.
Which is just a brilliant place to start.
We want to figure out how to make cooperation clear, rewarding, and safe without trying to overpower their natural independence. By the end of this, the way you view canine intelligence, motivation, and what we mistakenly call stubbornness is going to completely shift.
Because what is actually happening in the dog's brain when that bird takes flight is vastly more complex than simple disobedience.
Right. It's not just them being a jerk.
Exactly. Your dog isn't failing to hear the cue. Their brain is actively weighing two competing pieces of information.
Like a literal scale in their head.
Yeah, pretty much. They have the auditory sound of a familiar word from you, and then the visual stimulus of sudden movement. And sighthounds, they have a highly specialized visual cortex.
Like biologically specialized.
Oh, absolutely. Their retinas are packed with these visual streaks that make them hypersensitive to motion on the horizon. So when that bird moves, the visual cortex completely hijacks the brain.
Wow. So just overrides everything else.
It pushes auditory processing to the deep background. But to really understand this, we have to look at how we measure canine intelligence in the first place.
Right, because standard obedience rankings are notorious for labeling Afghan hounds as, like, one of the least intelligent breeds out there.
Which is so frustrating to read.
It is. Because judging an Afghan hound by the standards of a border collie or a golden retriever is like being angry that a Formula One race car can't plow a field,
That's a great way to put it.
You're criticizing the machine for failing at a job it was never engineered to do. Those intelligence lists basically just measure one very specific thing: how fast a dog complies with a command and how many times they'll tolerate repeating the same mundane task.
And what's fascinating here is how intelligence is fundamentally defined by evolutionary purpose. The breeds at the top of those obedience lists, they were selectively engineered over generations to stay in constant close contact with a human handler.
Right, like a herding dog waiting for the shepherd to whistle.
Exactly. Their brain is wired to wait for the next instruction. But true Afghan hound intelligence operates on a completely different software system, so to speak.
And the sources detail this so well. It's rooted in, like, spatial judgment, memory, visual processing, and totally independent problem solving.
Yes, because think about their history.
Right? If you drop this dog's ancestor onto a rugged, expansive mountainside in Central Asia, their entire job was to spot prey over vast distances.
And then pursue it over treacherous, rocky terrain at, crazy speeds.
Yeah, making split-second decisions at speeds upwards of 40 miles per hour. If they paused mid-sprint to look back at a human handler for instructions on what to do next.
They'd lose the prey, or break a leg, or get killed by a predator.
Exactly. Independent judgment wasn't a personality flaw for them. It was literally the biological requirement for survival.
They are bred to read a chaotic environment and make an immediate independent call about what matters right now.
So it's no wonder they act the way they do outside.
Right. Because they process the world visually rather than constantly checking in with a handler, the outdoor environment acts as a massive, overpowering competitor for their attention.
The moment they step outside, their brain is just flooded with engaging data.
It's sensory overload in the best way for them.
But wait, let me play devil's advocate here for a second.
Go for it.
Because centuries of survival also rely on, eating. If I am out in that field and I have a piece of high-value premium roasted chicken in my hand, how does the environment still win?
That's the logical human question, right?
Right. Are you telling me that staring at a bird or sniffing a bush overrides basic caloric survival, like food is food?
Well, we get tunnel vision as humans. We assume food is the ultimate biological currency for every animal.
Because it is for me.
Fair enough. But for a visually driven hunter, dopamine, which is the brain's reward chemical, it spikes massively in response to the chase, not just the meal.
Oh, so the act of hunting is the reward itself.
Exactly. In a highly stimulating environment, the opportunity to investigate a fascinating new scent, or simply the freedom to scan the horizon, triggers a stronger neurological reward in that specific second than a piece of chicken ever could.
Wow. So they're literally getting chemical high from just looking around.
They really are. If
Yeah.
the dog's brain is screaming for the dopamine release of visual tracking and you offer chicken, you are offering currency they simply don't value in that moment.
Okay, that makes so much sense. We have to
Yeah.
figure out what the dog actually wants right then, which explains why we fail so spectacularly in these moments.
Oh, we fail all the time.
The dog stares at the bird, ignores the chicken, and the owner falls into that classic, they come trap.
Yes. The rapid-fire recall.
We just start machine gunning the recall word, hoping volume or repetition will magically break their focus.
Which is the worst thing you can do. You are unintentionally demonstrating to the dog that the word means absolutely nothing.
So they aren't really processing it anyway, right?
Right. When a dog is visually locked onto a target, their auditory processing is muffled. You say come 4 times while they're in that state, and then on the 5th time, you finally walk over, tap their shoulder, and get their attention.
You haven't taught them to come when called.
Nope. You have neurologically conditioned them to treat the first 4 repetitions of that sound as irrelevant background noise.
Like the wind in the trees.
Exactly like the wind in the trees. You are just diluting your own cue.
And the sources point out, we also ruin the recall command by completely ignoring behavioral economics.
Oh, the economics of dog training are so important.
We also exclusively use the word come to end the dog's fun. Like, we say it when it's time to leave the park, or when it's bath time, or when they need to go in their crate.
Right, and the dog's brain is constantly running a cost-benefit analysis on everything you do.
So if responding to your cue always results in a loss of freedom or the end of an enjoyable activity, the quote-unquote cost of coming to you becomes prohibitively high.
It's bankrupting their joy. Why would a dog engineered for independent thought voluntarily choose to do that?
They wouldn't. So the practical fix is to manipulate that economic ledger. You call them over while they're just exploring the yard.
Yes, when nothing bad is about to happen.
Right. When they arrive, you provide a massive paycheck,
Yes.
a high-value treat or a quick game of tug, and then you immediately say, okay, go play, and release them right back to the yard.
It changes the entire meaning of the word.
Responding to you no longer means the fun stops. It just means a quick check-in for a bonus payout before the fun continues.
Building that resilience in their response is crucial,
Yeah.
but we do have to confront a hard biological reality here.
Which is?
Even with flawless, scientifically sound conditioning, we are still fighting genetics.
The blueprint.
Yes, training improves communication and builds a profound bond, but it does not overwrite the fundamental biological blueprint of a sighthound.
Think about human reflexes, like when a bug or a piece of gravel suddenly flies directly at your eye, you blink.
You don't have a choice.
Right. You don't consciously think, oh, a projectile is approaching my cornea. I should initiate the eyelid closing sequence.
That would take way too long.
That's faster than conscious thought. You couldn't just train yourself to keep your eyes perfectly open if a rock is thrown at your face.
And that prey drive in an Afghan hound, that explosive 0 to 40 acceleration when a rabbit darts out of the brush, is exactly like that reflex.
Hardwired, infinitely deeper than conscious obedience.
Absolutely. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it requires a complete paradigm shift in how we view managing their environment.
Management is huge.
It is. Many owners feel this sense of guilt, believing that relying on a leash or a 6-foot fence is a sign of personal failure. They assume, a quote-unquote good trainer wouldn't need physical barriers.
But the sources are clear. Management is not a consolation prize for failed training.
Not at all.
It's responsible stewardship of an animal whose neurological reflexes can and will outrun human intervention every single time.
The physical environment has to do the heavy lifting for us.
Yeah, take the front door of your house. Teaching your dog to wait at the door isn't about projecting dominance or being the alpha. It is about physically closing the gap of escape.
Because of their visual processing speed, if that door opens and a squirrel twitches across the street,
They're gone.
the dog will be halfway across the pavement before your human brain even registers that they moved.
And this physical management extends directly to the gear we use to walk them to.
Gear is so critical for this breed.
Because they're a sighthound, their anatomy is highly specialized for aerodynamics. Their skulls are incredibly narrow, often narrower than their necks.
Which makes traditional collars a nightmare.
Oh, for sure. If an Afghan hound sees something and decides to bolt, or if they get spooked and quickly back up, the physics of a standard flat collar are entirely against you. The collar will just slide right over their ears in a fraction of a second.
Which is terrifying near a road. Utilizing proper gear like a martingale collar is totally non-negotiable.
And just to clarify the mechanics of that for anyone who hasn't used one, a martingale collar basically has two loops.
Right.
When the dog pulls or backs up, the smaller loop tightens just enough to bring the collar snugly behind the jawbones. It makes it physically impossible to slip over that narrow skull.
But without choking them like a traditional slip chain would?
Exactly. It
Yeah.
provides absolute security. And while we are discussing management and prey drive, we really have to address the dynamics of living with small pets.
Specifically cats.
Yes, cats. It is a question that comes up constantly in the literature. Coexistence is absolutely possible, but it's heavily dependent on the dog's early socialization and the individual temperament of the cat.
But the underlying mechanism of prey drive explains why you never, under any circumstances, use a smaller pet as a quote-unquote test.
You don't just put them in a living room together to see what happens, hoping they'll just, work it out and be friends.
Never. Because a running cat is not a friend in that millisecond.
It's a trigger.
It is a trigger. Prey drive is a very specific sequence. Orient, stalk, chase, grab. Sudden movement initiates that sequence completely automatically.
So what's the protocol?
You always use physical barriers, you keep the dog leashed initially, and you have to ensure the cat has vertical escape routes like tall cat trees or shelves that the dog physically cannot reach.
You are basically relying on gradual habituation.
Right, letting the dog's brain slowly categorize the cat as part of the boring, static environment rather than a moving target.
Because you just never gamble with millions of years of predatory instinct.
It's not worth the risk.
Now, this intense, rugged hunter outside brings up a really jarring contrast when we look at their social behavior indoors.
Oh, they're completely different animals inside.
You read about the breed, and the word aloof is everywhere. Does that mean they just inherently dislike people?
No, and that's a huge misconception. Being reserved with strangers is often misinterpreted as unfriendliness. These dogs bond with incredible, profound intensity to their core family unit.
They just aren't golden retrievers with guests.
Exactly. Consider their hypervisual nature. When a stranger walks into the home, stares directly at the dog, and reaches out to force physical contact, the dog's visually attuned brain processes that direct looming attention as a potential threat vector.
Not a friendly greeting.
Right. They do not feel the biological need to perform enthusiastic greetings for people outside their immediate pack.
So we really have to respect their boundaries. The best approach, the sources suggest, is instructing visitors to completely ignore the dog.
Just pretend they aren't there.
Yeah, let the dog observe the new people from a safe distance, process the visual information on their own terms, and approach only if they want to.
And this deep sensitivity dictates family dynamics as well. They thrive with children who demonstrate calm respect.
But because of their physical and emotional sensitivity, a sighthound should never be cornered, climbed on, or startled awake.
Absolutely never. They require a quiet, designated safe space where they know they will not be pursued by anyone.
And that deep bond with the family also means separation anxiety can develop if it's left unchecked.
Which is very common. You manage this by building alone time gradually and keeping departures and arrivals completely devoid of emotion.
Meaning, if you throw a massive emotional goodbye party every time you grab your car keys, you are winding their nervous system up and validating their panic.
You are confirming to them that your departure is, in fact, a catastrophic event.
And speaking of catastrophic events for the owner's sanity, let's talk about the dreaded adolescent wall.
Oh boy. the teenager phase.
You have a puppy. You've done all the reward-based training. They are checking in. They are listening perfectly. And suddenly, right around 5 to 7 months of age, it feels like an alien spacecraft beamed down and replaced your dog.
It really does feel like that.
They start testing boundaries. They stare blankly when you give a cue, and they are suddenly distracted by a leaf blowing 3 blocks away.
This is a critical period of neurological development. Their brain chemistry is undergoing a massive reconstruction.
Like remodeling a house.
Exactly. Through a process called neural pruning, the brain is actively stripping away puppy neural pathways and building adult ones. Plus, they're flooded with hormones.
So this literally causes temporary misfires in obedience and focus.
It's not them being stubborn, it's just biology.
But the natural human instinct when a previously well-behaved dog starts blatantly ignoring commands is to escalate, right?
Oh, we always want to double down.
You want to crack down, raise your voice, give a leash correction, and establish dominance to show them you are still in charge.
Which is the worst possible approach here. Applying harsh physical or verbal corrections to a highly sensitive adolescent Afghan hound will completely backfire.
Because they're already confused.
Right. Because their brain is in a state of chaotic reorganization, they are already feeling insecure. If you become a source of unpredictable anger and punishment, you do not build obedience. You permanently shatter their trust in you.
So you just have to ride out the adolescent phase with immense patience.
Reinforcing consistent, reward-based training, even when it feels like you are starting from scratch.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Because the concept of reward-based training frequently brings out a massive misconception.
Oh, I know where you're going with this.
I hear owners say all the time, if I am constantly using high-value treats to get my dog to listen, aren't I just bribing them to behave? I want them to listen because they respect me, not because I have food.
It is such a vital distinction to make, and it entirely comes down to the mechanics of timing.
Timing is everything.
Bribery and reinforcement are fundamentally different things. Bribery is producing the hot dog beforehand, holding it in front of the dog's nose, and using it to convince them to comply with a cue.
You're negotiating with them.
Exactly. You are negotiating. Reinforcement, on the other hand, is clear communication. You give the cue with empty hands.
And wait.
And wait. The dog makes the independent cognitive choice to comply. Then, and only then, you produce the reward to signify, yes, that was the exact right choice.
It is not a bribe. It is a paycheck for a job well done.
Every dog, no matter how sensitive or fiercely independent, needs that clear communication to understand the boundaries of the human world.
But we also have to become detectives, don't we? Because there's a phenomenon the sources highlight that we can call the health disguise.
This is so important.
Once we understand their unique learning style and their intense physical sensitivity, we have to deeply analyze sudden moments of what looks like stubbornness.
This raises an important question every single time your dog's behavior abruptly shifts.
Give me an example.
Okay, let's say your dog has happily jumped into the back of your SUV every day for 3 years. Then, one afternoon, they plant their feet, lock their elbows, and flat out refuse.
Or a dog that normally loves being groomed suddenly snaps when the brush hits their lower back.
Right. The immediate human assumption is that the dog is testing boundaries or acting out. But a complete overnight failure in established training is extraordinarily rare.
We have to remember how stoic this breed is.
Very stoic.
On that rugged mountainside we talked about earlier, broadcasting weakness or injury to predators was a literal death sentence. Masking pain is an evolutionary survival mechanism for them.
They aren't going to dramatically limp or whine every time they pull a muscle.
So refusing to jump into the car might be the only way they know how to communicate that their hips are aching.
Sudden resistance is very often a symptom of pain, fear, or illness, masquerading as disobedience.
It really requires an entirely new framework for the owner. You stop asking, how do I force compliance in this moment? And you start asking, what biological or physical truth is my dog trying to communicate to me right now?
Empowering yourself to view behavior shifts as diagnostic clues for your veterinarian rather than disciplinary issues, it just completely changes the relationship.
It really does. So let's bring this all the way back full circle to that opening scene in the field.
I love that.
The sun is shining, the dog is off-leash in a safe, securely fenced area. The bird lifts off the grass. The dog's visual cortex takes over, locking onto the movement.
But this time, applying the psychology we've unpacked today, the human's response is entirely different.
And so is the outcome. The owner doesn't stand 50 feet away, repeating the cue louder and louder, diluting the word and building frustration.
No rapid fire, come, come, come.
Exactly. The owner takes a breath. They recognize the immense environmental competition happening in the dog's brain. They calmly walk closer, physically closing the distance to reduce the visual distraction.
Right.
They wait for the exact moment the dog's intensity drops just a fraction of a percent. They regain eye contact, and they give the cue once, clearly.
And then what happens?
The dog processes the choice, turns, and comes back. The owner provides a massive paycheck, a high-value reward and genuine praise, and then, crucially, immediately releases the dog back to explore the field.
It transforms a moment of potential conflict into a profound victory of interspecies communication.
It really is beautiful.
Yeah.
So what does this all mean for you? Why does taking the time to understand this specific psychology matter so much?
Because it's about more than just obedience.
Exactly. Building this foundation of cooperation isn't just about having a polite dog who doesn't pull on a martingale collar. It genuinely makes their life safer and longer.
Oh, without a doubt.
When you have an Afghan hound that trusts your handling, that views your cues as an opportunity for reward rather than coercion, they're easier to examine when they're sick. They're easier for your vet to treat. They're easier to keep healthy for years to come.
And, we spend so much of modern dog ownership trying to suppress a dog's evolutionary traits so they fit neatly into our convenient, predictable human lifestyles.
We really do. We want them to act like little programmable robots in fursuits.
But if independent judgment, explosive speed, and hypervisual intensity were the exact traits that kept this breed's ancestors alive against all odds in a hostile world, perhaps true harmony doesn't come from forcing absolute, unquestioning obedience.
Wow.
Perhaps it comes from finally learning how to collaborate with millions of years of survival instincts.